Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today with some, you know what? I'm going to say it. Some good news. I know there's been a lot of pushback online about Microsoft buying a lot of companies. I totally understand and respect that stance. But I think after today's news, we can take a little bit more of an optimistic approach to this acquisition. I'll show you what I mean because we're talking about the revival of dead Activision IP. And there are a lot of them. I hate to do a call out, a little self-promo in the beginning of a video, but ladies and gentlemen, I posted a video over on Retro Rebound called The Golden Era of Activision. There was a time Activision was actually a decent publisher. I'll have that video linked down below. It'll speak even deeper into the topic that we're getting into today because it looks like Phil and his team at Xbox have some plans for Activision that are good for gaming. Not only that, but Bobby Kotick is actually in the headlines for not the worst reason and something scandalous, and it involves some of those dead IP that could potentially be revived. Last but certainly not least, an aspect that a lot of us in the Xbox community have been waiting a while for: physical games. We're ready to talk about them a little bit more in this video. I'll show you what I mean at the end. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are new here, you've never visited the Mr. Matty channel, Xbox news, reviews, discussions, all that stuff is here, but we also do plenty more beyond that. Consider subscribing. It's going to be a really exciting year, especially for Xbox. So let's buckle up and talk about Xbox reviving dead Activision IP.
But first, a word from our sponsor.
Well, it's that time of the month to clean up downstairs, but well, it doesn't look like I have any other options, so I'm just gonna go with old reliable. That's right, screwdriver and pliers. Here we go. Hello there. Do you also suffer from what we call the poke and pluck method? Yes, you do? Well, thanks so much for stopping by, because today I'm about to change your life so you don't have to suffer like the man directly behind me. Yes, today I'm telling you all about Manscaped. With Manscaped, it's time to start taking your below-the-belt grooming to the next level. It's a new year, no pubes, 2022. Let's do this thing with the Performance Package Kit, with the body wash, the lawnmower, the nose hair trimmer. Manscaped has you covered. Time to upgrade your bodily care. So go over to manscaped.com and use the promo code Matty for 20% off your order plus free shipping. That's 20% off plus free shipping with promo code Matty at manscaped.com. Check it out, link down below. So this article comes from Washington Post, where they talk about, yes, as the title suggests, Phil Spencer on reviving old Activision games as Microsoft positions itself as tech's gaming company. In discussing some of the intellectual properties owned by Activision Blizzard, Spencer's excitement may have mirrored the enthusiasm of a StarCraft player noticing the long dormant franchise's logo in Microsoft's acquisition announcement. Quote, "I was looking at the IP list. I mean, let's go," Spencer said. King's Quest, Guitar Hero. I should know this, but I think they got Hexen? Toys for Bob, one of the studios working under the Activision Blizzard banner, successfully launched games like Crash Bandicoot 4 It's About Time, but later got folded into supporting Call of Duty games. Spencer said the team will talk with developers about working on a variety of franchises from the Activision Blizzard vaults. Quote, "We're hoping that we'll be able to work with them when the deal closes to make sure we have resources to work on franchises that I love from my childhood and that the teams really want to get," end quote, Spencer said. Quote, "I'm looking forward to these conversations. I really think it's about adding resources and increasing capability," end quote. Okay. All right. So, in all seriousness, I can't contain my excitement here. Activision sucks, but they had some good IP. I mean, we're talking about Ultimate Alliance they had their hands on. I know there was a third one on Switch. Can we work something out to get that over to Xbox? It's been stuck on the Switch for a couple of years now. But more importantly, Prototype, Singularity, just to name a couple off the top of my head, freeing Raven Software, freeing Toys for Bob, freeing these companies, Beanox, who are so talented but got rolled into the annualized Call of Duty cycle, where even Crash was dying, Spyro was dead, Tony Hawk was dead. They were not going to do any more remasters, all for Call of Duty and Warzone. Okay, that to me is bad for gaming. We saw Epic do this, where they were working on a MOBA that I personally thought was cool, and then they stopped that, even though it was successful, by the way, and said, "You're working on Fortnite because that's our cash cow." That
sucks. So why do I say this is good news? Well, we'll talk about the IP, of course, but the reason I say this is good news is because a lot of the conversation when it comes to Xbox buying anybody usually revolves around the idea of exclusivity, where you could see them buy someone like Bethesda, now Activision, but expect those games to be more accessible than somewhere like PlayStation. The reason that is because PlayStation has put up the walls where Xbox has Game Pass, and Game Pass is accessible on your phone, your tablet, your computer. You can play on your Xbox One, Xbox Series exclusive games through xCloud. You can play on your Xbox Series consoles. Eventually, it'll be a smart TV app. There are so many ways to access Game Pass, and if it stays on that app-driven path, eventually it could come to PlayStation. It could come to Nintendo. So it's not like the walls are as tall, where when you see an acquisition by them, a lot of the conversation goes straight to exclusivity, and rightfully so. Can I access these games? But as we see more consolidation in our industry, I can understand how it's scary. But this is why I'm happy that Activision approached Microsoft, because Microsoft seems to, at least at face value, care about gaming. The reason I say that is, can you think what would happen if Activision Blizzard went to Meta? Activision Blizzard went to Amazon? Activision Blizzard went to Tencent? Do you think that any of those companies that are hungry are coming in and saying, we're going to revive Crash? Do you think that they're not going to wring Candy Crush dry? Do you think they're not going to just squeeze the life out of the rest of these studios and all put them into the Call of Duty machine? Do you see that happening? I know it's an optics thing, but I don't. I sure as hell don't. Which is why I've been saying, like, you know what? Yeah, acquisitions suck. People start to miss out on games. That's unfortunate. I think it's the nature of the business, and I think Xbox made the smart move doing it for themselves. But this, to me, is good for gaming, because if Activision were to be independent even, these IP were dead in the water. They were not coming back, especially the long dormant ones I brought up, like Prototype, like Singularity. They were not coming back. Raven Software got one chance at a Call of Duty campaign. I thought they knocked it out of the park, did a great job, and immediately got squished back into the COD cycle. Like, they had one chance to show themselves. Activision was running them terribly. And it looks like, based off this news as well, that Xbox plans to maybe unwind some of the annualized cycles for Call of Duty, because they're going to talk to all the teams, see what all of them are interested in, and obviously I would imagine companies like Toys for Bob don't want to work on COD. Beanox doesn't want to just work on COD. Beanox used to do all of the Spider-Man games. Can we finally see Xbox get their own, we'll say, pop culture game, where they're tapping into Star Wars, Marvel, DC, something there, right? To me, the revival of these IP, the potential there, is good for gaming. Now, I do have my concerns with the inheritance of Bethesda, with the inheritance of Activision, and of course Microsoft's own IP. There's a lot in that vault that they can pick from. There's the desire to create things based off of existing IP, like I mentioned, Star Wars, DC, Marvel, etc., etc. So somewhere along the way, one of us, as a Fallout fan, I think it could speak for a lot of us, are going to get left out. And how do you address all of that? There's only so many teams, so much manpower. Game development's getting more expensive. It's taking longer to make games. So yeah, there's a bit of a conflict there. But I'm relieved to hear that the company that acquired Activision plans on making full use of their teams to the best of their ability, not just to line their own pockets, because they understand with Call of Duty, with something like Candy Crush, with World of Warcraft, it's a little bit taken care of. Overwatch, there's money there. And that we can revive stuff like Crash, Spyro, Tony Hawk, because guess what? Xbox has said for a while, we need family games. There you go. Right there. So I think this is the right call at the end of the day, and I'm relieved to see this news. Also, just a funny tidbit here that I wanted to call out. He says, I've been really advocating internally in the company that gaming will be a catalyst for us, and I can see how some of that functionality moving into the enterprise scenarios and workplace scenarios can be beneficial, but I don't think anybody should pretend that all this stuff is being rewritten. I had a meeting today with the Elder Scrolls Online team, and we did our leadership team meeting in-game. That's as much of a Zoom call as anything else. Just the idea of Phil, like, pulling up Dark Elf, Mage, Somerset Isle, like, yo, boys, what are we doing for future DLC for this game? How are we handling our 10-year plan? Like, I think that's hilarious. I love it, though. I love to see that. That's a fun way to do a meeting. But anyway, We don't need to stroke their ego too hard here. Let's move on to the next headline. Like I said, Bobby Kotick actually made a headline without doing anything scandalous. So let's talk about that. Activision CEO wants Xbox to revive Guitar Hero and Skylanders. Speaking of VentureBeat, Kotick cited Guitar Hero and Skylanders as two franchises that were extremely powerful for Activision in the past, but were eventually shelved for numerous reasons. One of these reasons was the need for separate manufacturing teams, something Kotick says he wasn't prepared to set up, but that he feels Microsoft should be equipped for. He also hopes that Microsoft will use its social integration tools to make Candy Crush a more engaging multiplayer experience. Phil and I started riffing on things for the future, Kotick said. I'll give you 3 that are really compelling. I want to make a new Guitar Hero for a while, but I don't want to add teams to do manufacturing and supply chain and QA for manufacturing, and the chip shortages are enormous. We didn't really have the ability to do that. I had a really cool vision for what the next Guitar Hero would be, and realized we don't have the resources to do that. And Skylanders too. One of the great disappointments of my career is that other people came in and they came out with crappy alternatives. And they dumped all these crappy alternatives into the market and basically destroyed the market for what was a really cool future opportunity. If you look at Skylanders with its hardware and manufacturing and supply chain, there are the same kinds of things that we can't do, but Microsoft can. To me, this reads a lot like a CEO who cares about the big bucks, and while we know Activision was making money, it's about how much do you actually want to make. You can make money by making a Call of Duty, a Tony Hawk, a Spyro, a Crash, or you could just make bank by making just Call of Duty and Warzone and leaving stuff like, say, Guitar Hero to the side because of the manufacturing costs. The reason he's saying, like, well, we can't do it, but Microsoft has the means to do so is because it's literally money. Of course, there's also a chip shortage, which I do understand that does seem reasonable, but to me, this reads as, we were too cheap to do anything that required extra materials. Microsoft is not. We'll leave it in their hands. Yeah, I remember when Guitar Hero Live came out. I distinctly recall that one not hitting as hard. There was a small era in the early 2010s, around the time that the PS4 and Xbox One came out, where we saw a new Rock Band, we saw a new Guitar Hero, and it seemed like we may have enjoyed a bit of a renaissance there, but both of them didn't really light the world on fire. And I don't know if they ever will again, because we saw things like DJ Hero come out afterwards, but Guitar Hero sold over 25 million units. I think there's a lot of potential there for Activision, and that was a childhood game too. Guitar Hero 3, Guitar Hero 2, I played these a ton. Smash Hits, I played a ton. I mean, I was a Guitar Hero junkie all through middle school into my early high school days. Like, I played it a ton, and it was like a bragging right in school. Like, how many songs could you play on Expert? What songs could you play on Expert? And just gradually getting better and better and better. So yeah, a lot of fond memories with Guitar Hero, where I'd love to see that come back, but you can already see a lot of the conversation here between Phil independently speaking and Kotick speaking independently, that they are looking to revive things, that they're looking to revive a lot of things. And you saw the conversation is not just limited to things like Guitar Hero and Skylanders, these toys to lifestyle games. It's also titles like Crash. That's exciting to me. So it's good to know that Microsoft plans to make full use of the teams and of the IP, because that is super necessary for, I think, gaming to grow, and of course for Game Pass to offer us a more diverse library. Let's be honest with ourselves. There's a lot of FPS games in there, right? We got Halo, COD, Doom. Like, we got the trifecta there. As long as, you know, Microsoft doesn't buy EA, if Battlefield's in there, they own first-person shooting. They own first-person shooting. Like, that's a little scary to think about. So, you know, I would like to see a little more diversity in there. We're seemingly getting that in this generation with a lot of the first-party games coming from these studios. So time will tell on that, but 2023 and on, oh boy, it's game time for sure. So with that, let's get into our last bit of news here. Limited Run, baby. Limited Run. For those who don't know what Limited Run is, the name exactly explains it. They do limited runs of physical video games. They're typically indie games or digital downloadable only titles that don't get a physical run. So it could be something as popular as like Star Wars Republic Commando, or something as small as Stubbs the Zombie, and they'll get their own physical release through Limited Run. It's a popular service for collectors like myself. I will warn you all, it's also a popular service for those out there who like to scalp and resell. So it's good to get in on the ground level. And Xbox has never been a part of this. It's always been Switch, PlayStation. And kudos to them for supporting the physical games movement, because Limited Run does a great job, and they get it. They do little manuals. They give you collectible cards. Of course, the actual box, the disc, like it's all there. They do a great job harkening back to the older days of gaming with these digital downloadable titles. And so now they put out a tweet saying, our games sure are going to look good and green. Our first Xbox game is slated to release this summer. Which Xbox games would you like to see get a limited run release? Oh man. Okay, first things first. Let's talk about Psychonauts 2. This is an Xbox first-party studio launch. It's a crime, it's a travesty that Psychonauts 2 is not on store shelves. Getting out there, because I talked just a second ago about family games, and while Psychonauts 2 tackles some pretty tough themes, let's be honest, it's a charming, funny, I'd say Pixar-like 3D platformer. Okay, like this is a game that needs to be out there more. And so Limited Run, actually, believe it or not, does sometimes show up on store shelves. Like when I go to my local Best Buy, I will see them having Limited Run games there. So it's not just about ordering them online through this niche website. Like it's actually a thing that can put them on shelves. So I think Psychonauts 2, above all else, tops the list for me. Like give that game a physical release. That makes too much sense to me. But I also think there's a weird standard being set there if we see an Xbox first-party studio go through Limited Run. Just saying. I get this was a Kickstarter game, and I understand that there was a crowdfunding fully behind it, and they were honoring contracts and agreements and all that stuff, but I just think that it would be a little weird if a first-party studio had to go to Limited Run to get on store shelves. But I wouldn't complain. I'd be happy to buy a copy of Psychonauts 2. I think the new Battletoads is a great pick as well. That was a downloadable title only. I know that was a bit hit or miss for people, but that really doesn't matter for Limited Run. I mean, they'll publish like Chemco games, which, if you don't know Chemco, they made Batman Dark Tomorrow. If you don't know what that is, don't go and find out, please. I uploaded a video on my channel, by the way, if you want to check it out. There's also Grounded. Throw Grounded out there. I know it's a multiplayer game, but hey, that's another great Obsidian game that doesn't have a physical release. So there's a lot of ways that we can approach this here, but I'm very excited to see, moving into the future, Xbox will be a part of this, because it's sometimes not even just the exclusive things, like the third-party stuff that Xbox is already supporting these games for. They just don't have the physical limited run releases. So I'm happy to see them getting involved here. This is good for collectors like myself. But anyway, that's all of today's Xbox news. Certainly a lot to be excited for, in my opinion. So let me know what you are thinking in the comments down below. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below, along with my Patreon. Do consider supporting that, as it fuels all the content we create here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.